at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. You can check out all the games this weekend, including the Eagles and the Giants. It's Sunday at noon. You can Sunday at 1. Pregame coverage starts at noon right here on 97.3 ESPN. Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast and PhillyVoice.com is back for today's Football at 4, which has a lot of stuff going on, including no A.J. Brown at practice today. Doesn't seem to be hurt. I don't know if he's just standing next to Big Dom, Jeff, just to see what the color of the paint inside his house is or anything. But no A.J. Brown at practice. You read anything into that other than maybe just a day off?
Maybe just a day off. He's dealt with injuries all throughout camp, but usually, I don't know. I mean, we're in the thick of the season here. Eagles have just gotten themselves out of a 2-game losing streak. The fact that he's standing there is a good thing. But I don't know. I would say maintenance day if other guys were not practicing, but this doesn't feel like a maintenance day type of thing. But we'll have to see when the report comes out. But it's sort of a shame if it's anything that's more than minor, because he's coming off, obviously a very good game with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and obviously he's putting out his cryptic messages and doing things, so you always wonder what's going on with him. However, he's standing on the sideline, as are a couple of injured players like Cam Jurgens. Let's get your thoughts on that. Nick Sirianni was asked about Jurgens and whether or not they would use Landon Dickerson. He was not committal to that. But are you of the opinion that if they know Jurgens is out, that maybe someone else starts the game, that Toth is there in the middle of a game, but if they know ahead of time, they might change their thinking?
Well, I don't know that if Cam Jurgens can't play, I'm not sure it resolves the Brett Toth has to play issue. But I do think if you're trying to put, as coaches always say, and I think Nick Sirianni said today, you do the best that you can for your team. If you want to put your team in the best position to succeed, then you would play Landon Dickerson at center and Brett Toth at left guard. That's what I think. Now, you can rationalize that and say, well, at least at center, Toth only has to double team. He helps out, whereas at left guard, you're on an island more so than often, and that's not good for Brett Toth. And I could see I can understand that. But also, Brett Toth's shotgun snapping is not very good. And even though the Eagles went under center 16 times against the Vikings, that was game plan specific anyway. I'm not sure they're going to want to do that as much against the Giants. And then even so, you still have to snap from the shotgun. You can't just limit yourself to an under center offense. So I think the potential for, calamity or things going wrong is higher with Toth at center than left guard. It's not a great situation either way, but I'm not quite sure what the solution is. It's not like Sua Opeta is the answer. They brought him back and put him on the practice squad. And Matt Pryor, they clearly don't like playing on the left side. Mike, and maybe we'll be discussing this after the season or during the bye week, but it wasn't a great offseason for Howie Roseman. I know that's kind of like a dirty thing to say about Howie because of all the success that he's had, but he really did not do a great job addressing depth in some key areas this offseason, and that's one of them.
Well, and I guess Drew Kendall's not ready. Or would you think that, well, maybe if they know he's starting the game, they activate him, but they don't, he doesn't play guard. So is it one of those situations?
Yeah, that would just be, is Jeff Stoutland comfortable with a rookie 5th-round pick, Drew Kendall, playing center? Because you wouldn't play him a left guard. You'd only play him at center. Are you comfortable with him stepping in against Dexter Lawrence and that pretty strong Giants defensive front? The Giants haven't been a very good defense altogether, but as we saw in that game Thursday night, their defensive front, it's got some dogs on it, and I just don't know that they think that Kendall is ready for that.
Geoff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast, and obviously he was asked today, Nick Sirianni was about Saquon Barkley. Barkley kind of said, he kind of said, it's my fault that the running game is not what it is, and he said, yeah, it's a team thing. But what do you think Barkley is Barkley kind of taking there?
I think he's just being a leader and accountable, which is good. It's not like he's going to come out and say what he's doing wrong. Maybe there are some things that he's watched on tape that he feels like he could have done better. I guarantee you that. I think that no matter who you are, but especially at the running back position where you're so dependent on lanes, people in front of you, certain shifts and movements. I'm sure he's watched the tape and thought, oh, man, like there I had an avenue, or there. I've seen it myself. A couple of times he slipped and fallen, and sometimes he hasn't exactly followed the block. But he's sort of never been that kind of running back anyway. But I guess it comes to light a little bit more when your up front is already struggling.
Yeah, and they're struggling up front. We'll see if Juergens can. Would you imagine that Juergens? What is going on with him? They're being kind of cryptic about this.
I mean, look, the guy. I think him and Dickerson both fall into the same category of guys who underwent off-season surgery, and it wasn't like a minor this or a minor. Back surgery is pretty big for an offensive lineman, and your range of motion has to come back the way it was, and the beauty of Cam Juergens and Jason Kelsey and being that kind of athletic center is you have more fluid change of direction and angle movements than maybe other centers who just play more of a rough and tumble type of game, blow the guy off the ball type of game. And the offense has always been centered around those athletic movements that Kelsey and Juergens can do. And if you have back surgery and you can't do those things, but you're still trying to do those things, then other parts of your body can break down in the process. It's favoring, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that's exactly the issue. I don't know. And, the team's not going to come out and tell you, but I do know that he even did come out and say that he's not felt like 100% since the back surgery.
Yeah, I mean, if he's and there's a lot of things the Eagles have done with their centers that a lot of teams can't do because they had Kelsey
Correct.
and Juergens, and they pull them and they get to the next level. They do a lot of athletic things with the center. So I would imagine having a center situation certainly changes the dynamics of what they can do offensively.
Oh, 100%. And then, it's compounded when you ask Brett Toth to play center. He was asked to put a couple of blocks in that game from under center that that's not what Brett Toth can do. I mean, you can look at it and say, well, man, Brett Toth stinks, but that's not fair to Brett Toth because no one has ever said in any scouting report that Brett Toth is capable of doing those things. In fact, he wasn't even a center until he came to the Eagles. So, I mean, you can throw Brett Toth under the bus all you want, but it's not being fair to him. He shouldn't be asked to make kind of blocks that he has not been asked to make in the past because he can't.
All right, Jeff, let's take a look at the defense. Obviously, Brandon Graham, and he's there. Now, that is official. He announced that yesterday that he will be coming back. We did touch on this a little bit on Monday, but Nick Sirianni was asked about it a lot today, obviously. He was at practice today. Do you, number one, anticipate Graham will play in this game, or do you anticipate probably after the bye week?
Definitely after the bye week, but I do think that there's something to look for this week. And because when Zadarius Smith came to the Eagles, he was not in training camp. He was not in, with the team for the first week. I mean, he was not at an OTA. So he kind of came off cold, but he was in good conditioning, and Vic certainly saw it in practice and played him a lot more in that first game than we all thought. So Brandon is different because he's coming off of a re-tear of the triceps, but it's been 6 or 7 months. So if that's 100% healthy and not an issue, and he's out there at the practice field looking pretty good, it would not. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if he's medically checked out, everything's fine with the triceps, and his conditioning is even decent. It wouldn't shock me if Vic threw him out there because Vic doesn't care about your history. Vic, if you can play, Vic's going to play you.
Yeah, he went in that whole expository the other day about he was told the guy can only play X amount of snaps, and then hey, whatever. So if he's the best option, I agree with you. If he's the best option or one of the top 5 options, I would imagine that he would be out there. And
then you got, no Ojulari, right? So, I mean, you're already, you got Zadarius Smith falling to quits, no Ojulari. And I know people got excited about Jihad Campbell playing the edge position against the Vikings, but he only did it in base, because of those depth issues. He wasn't rushing the passer. He was basically doing that for a run in a 5-2 front. So I'm not sure, maybe that role gets changed, Mike, a little bit this week with the depth issues because you don't want to overextend Brandon Graham. Maybe you do see Jihad Campbell out there in more of a 4-man front when they need to rush.
Well, let's talk more about that because Nakobe Dean was back. He played 31 snaps. I think he played pretty well. So when you look at Nakobe Dean and what they did with him, What does it mean kind of moving forward with his role and then what you do with Jahad Campbell? I'm interested in this whole dynamic here.
Yeah, I wrote about this on PhillyVoice.com today. And so I think for now, he's probably still going to play like he did against the Vikings in base downs, because for the most part, when they're in nickel, they're still going to be Bond and they're still going to be Jahad Campbell. That's the way it was against the Vikings, minus, I think, 2 or 3 snaps where Nakobe did play in the nickel, and Jahad Campbell didn't move there. He just came off the field. So, but again, given where they're at with the edge here and Ojulari not being able to play, maybe you do see Campbell play in that 4-man front as an edge rusher, and then you do see more Nakobe at linebacker. We'll see. I don't know. Vic Fangio talked about it, and he made it clear he was just trying to get Nakobe Dean back to, some conditioning, see how he looked on defense. I watched all the snaps. I thought he looked pretty good. A couple of really good run stops that he made in the game. They didn't really target him in passing, even though the Vikings actually threw the ball quite a bit while the Eagles were in base. But mostly Carson Wentz threw outside the numbers. But there is an opportunity to get him on the field if you want to play ball a little bit more as an edge rusher.
Well, I was going to say, do you think it's either Campbell or Dean, or can they coexist?
I think for right now they can, because you can play Campbell on the edge in the nickel in the 4-man front, and then have Dean play linebacker. But when you're talking about coming out of the bye and Nolan Smith ready to return and Brandon Graham having a few more weeks of practice on them, remember, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, and Jalix Hunt are all very good run defenders, not just good pass rushers. So you'd want those guys in your 5-2 front playing the edge more so than Campbell. So if those guys are going to play the edge in that front, you're going to put Campbell back at off-ball linebacker, and then Nakobe sort of gets lost in the sauce again, and we'll just see from there. I mean, there could be more injuries. We don't know. But I think the short-term answer is clearer than the long-term answer.
Well, it'll be interesting. I didn't think Campbell made much of a factor at all in that role in pass rush. Would you disagree with me?
Do you mean against the Vikings or last year?
Exactly. Like if you watched him and said, this guy's going to help us out, like you would say no to that. But you almost, I want to get, you almost feel like where they are with the pass rush, like you almost say, hey, do we just keep playing him here and hope that we can unlock something?
Yeah. I don't know, because his future is still off-ball linebacker. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. We have no idea what's going to happen with Nakobe Dean after this year. His contract's up. It's hard right now to see him getting an extension, knowing that they have Campbell and Vaughn's playing well. But that's for, after the season. So I don't think that they're just going to play Campbell at edge just to kind of experiment and see what they can get, if he can get better. Once they have Nolan Smith back and Brandon Graham, and you still have Uche and you still have Jalix Hunt, I just don't see a whole lot of edge reps for Jahad Campbell. And because of the bye week, this scenario that I'm talking about is really just the next game after the Giants game, which is, it could be the Packers game. And if it's not the Packers, then it surely would be the next week.
Yeah, I know. Well, Nolan Smith, he's not back at practice this week, so his window's not even open to try to play at all. There was some hope that he could possibly.
It was always supposed to be after the bye week, though.
Yeah, no, but the fact that he could practice this week, right?
I mean, as I understood it, the practice window for him was more realistic for the bye week.
He's going to
coming out of the bye week.
Yes, he'll be. So hopefully you get him back after the bye week. What is your thoughts on? Bennett was back today, Jacorian Bennett. Does he become the cornerback opposite Mitchell?
Really, he's one injury away. I mean, I would think that Keely Ringo will get the opportunity, especially because this is not a Giants team that has a tremendous amount of great offensive weapons. I mean, we say that. I know. I was there. I watched on Thursday night when guys like Little Jordan Humphrey and Wan'Dale Robinson caught a lot of, big passes that you wouldn't expect. But the reality is, I mean, this is not a great Giants receiving core.
No, not at all. They don't even have neighbors out there.
Yeah, right. And I don't even know if Slayton's going to be there. So, I mean, I know Vic is going to watch Jacorian Bennett in practice today, but you got to remember, man, like Bennett just got here. He's trying to learn a different defense than he's ever played in. He had a couple of weeks, probably was going to get a shot. Then he got hurt for a week. 5 weeks, I think it's been, right? So that Rams game where he blocked, where he picked up the field. Was it the Rams game? Yes, he hit the holder on the field goal block that Jordan Davis did, right? That's how he hurt himself. He went shoulder first into the holder there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was several weeks now. So not only does he have to have conditioning, and Vic has to see how he is, but he's got to know the defense and know where to play. And but listen, even if he doesn't, what happens if Kelee Ringo gets out there and turns an ankle? What are they going to do?
Yeah, well,
they have to play him.
I think the Ringo thing has been a roller coaster. Adoree Jackson had the rough first week, and I think everybody's kind of holding him to that first week, but he's been banged up now, so it'll be interesting. And I'm interested to know, like right now, if they were to pick one spot to upgrade, would it be edge still or corner?
Man, that's a tough. It's you would have to tell us who's available, right? Because it could be I'll just get the best one that I can, because it's clear that both of them are equally hurting the Eagles at times. I think everything starts up front with the Eagles. I know that, so edge would be hard to turn down, but there's just I don't know who's going to be dealing a good number 2 corner, but we'll see. I know everybody expects the Vikings to have their fire sale, and then a couple other teams will fall out of it too. We'll see, but I don't know that there is a clear answer to what you're saying as an either or. They're both positions of need, and they're both positions hurting the team equally.
Well, because they told you that we need a corner by trading for a corner, and then they told you we need an edge by signing an edge. So I don't think that either of those areas have been shored up quite enough yet. So they might have to dip right back in the same. Although Bennett hasn't got a chance to play, so we'll see how that all kind of shakes out there. Moshe, before we get out of here, let's look at this matchup a little bit. The Giants kicked your butt last time. They physically beat you up. They didn't
do anything to me. I feel great.
Would you be surprised if they were able to come out and do the same thing and just physically win at the line of scrimmage? We're talking about problems up front, on offensive line, defensive pass rush. Would you be surprised if the Giants, why shouldn't I think the Giants could beat you up again?
That's fair. I get where you're coming. I'd be surprised if the Eagles lost 34-17. Sure, for sure. But I wouldn't, am I saying that this is an absolute, no doubt about it win, or that the Giants won't come up and be really competitive despite their record? No, I think if anything the Giants have shown you over the last few weeks is that they believe in themselves. And the one thing that's very interesting about how they're coaching Jackson Dart, if you watch their games, they don't coach him like he's a rookie quarterback. You don't see Brian Dable limiting his throws or making easy. They have him out there throwing the ball around, right? They're not treating him with training wheels. Okay, sort of like the way Washington treated Jaden Daniels last year. Hey, let's come out and throw with him. Let's come out and run with him. Let's run this offense that Cliff Kingsbury designed. So that's impressive, and I think that it has had a widespread impact on the team. Now, they really blew a big game, and that's going to be tough to come back from. I heard you talking about it before. It's like the first time in 1,060. That's almost unbelievable, that stat. But if anything, this team looks pretty resilient, and they're confident, and they are strong up front. Now, I think their defensive coordinator is doing a lousy job, but they did a good job against the Eagles, and I expect that this will not be some kind of 42-13 type of win for the Eagles like it used to be when they played the Giants.
I think one of the crazy things of this season is how the Giant defense, their pass rush and the personnel they have really struggled. I thought their defense would be a pain in the butt to play, and that has not been the case. Their defense, obviously last week, that was unbelievable to give up 30 points in a quarter.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I think Burns has a lot of sacks. If I'm not mistaken, he's got 6 or 7.
He's been very good.
Yeah, and then early in the year, this is why I have to question a little bit what Bowen's doing as defense coordinator. When they went to a 4-man rush, they were taking Dexter Lawrence off the field. He was not part of it. And I'm like, Dexter Lawrence was an all-pro. He's one of the rare 345-pound guys who can get you 6 to 8 sacks from the inside, and you're taking him off the field on pass rushing downs. I didn't understand that. I still don't. I thought the Giants had a chance to have the best 4-man rush in football between Burns, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Abdul Carter, but I feel like they're not getting the opportunity to do that.
That and, when the Philly played them last time, they couldn't move the ball against the Giants. That was another problem. They struggled in every capacity against New York, and you would think that you would be able to take some shots down the field against them this time because they're not that strong in the secondary.
Agreed. Although I do like some of their secondary players, but for whatever reason, they just haven't put it together on defense. But again, when you're playing confidently and you believe in yourself and you're playing a rival that you just beat, I think that says something. So I think this will be an interesting game.
Oh, I agree. It shouldn't be an interesting game. To lose twice in the same season at home against the Giants would be absolutely disgraceful. Especially going into the bye week. You get this one, you get the taste out of your mouth for that Thursday, because I'll tell you what, that Thursday game still kind of resonates and sits that you got beat up the way you did physically. That's all.
Right. Jalen Carter should play in the game, so that's good. But again, it's Wednesday here. We got to see this report. If A.J. Brown's banged up, Cam Jurgens doesn't play.
Yeah, nothing on A.J. The press conference with Nick was before practice for everybody out there. So they didn't get a chance to ask about him.
So if you tell me that A.J. Brown's not playing, Cam Jurgens not playing, Dory Jackson's not playing, then all of a sudden that's the great equalizer.
Big time. All right, well, that's what happened last time. No Landon Dickerson, no Jalen Carter. Yep. You had a bunch of guys out, and the result was you got smoked, and they physically beat you up. That's what stands out about that game. It wasn't a fluke thing. The kicker missed an extra point. They physically beat you to a pulp. All right, maybe I'm going a little over. No, not really.
Well, you're fired up. No, they lost by 17 points to the Giants, who had one win.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yes.
All right. Geoff Mosher, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast, phillyvoice.com. Check out the Inside the Birds podcast on all podcasting platforms and right here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Thanks, Geoff.
You got it, Mike. Take care.
Jeff's back on Monday to recap Eagles and Giants for us here on the Sports Bash.